It's Transformers96, so it's another video review. This time we have from Revoltech Amazing Yamaguchi Venom from their Marvel comic series. This is the third figure in that series. So yes, I really do enjoy Revoltech figures. I really got hooked on them last year, and this has been a Revoltech release that I've been highly anticipating, and it's finally here, and I am very happy. I do have them in a little bit of a pose here. This is actually how I think I'm going to display these two, but here's the Revoltech Spider-Man as well as Venom together. They look awesome in this setup. It's just so cool. I don't know, this just looks like it's taken right out of a picture of the comic, you know? It looks more like a statue than two figures, so I absolutely love that. But anyway, going over the box, it is the standard size box for Revoltech, other than the fact that it's much wider than your average one. So it has much more depth there, because this is a wider figure. But as you can see, you have artwork on all the sides, which is quite nice. And then you do have this packing insert that can just be kind of propped up as a little background if you want to. It's the exact same size as the others, except the depth right here is larger, considering the box is larger. So I do like the fact that they add those little background pieces in. But before we go into the actual figure here, let's talk about some of the accessories that you get. You get a standard Revoltech base, which looks quite nice. I do like it. It's very functional. You can attach it onto the figure in two different ways. You have this little clamp piece that can hold him, or if you do, like at the waist, or if you do remove that, there is a little peg there, and there is a spot on his back that you can peg it in. I wish that this was a bit longer than your average one, though, just so that it would be even more sturdy in this figure, since he is much larger than your average Revoltech figure. It's articulated at multiple points. It swivels and hinges here, swivels there, and then has the hinge on each of those little claws. So nice base, and I wish that it was customized a bit to help be more supportive, considering this is a much larger figure than your average one. However, it is still a very nice and functional base. You have two pieces at the top of the head, which is very cool. It allows you to give him different expressions, which is quite nice. You have the standard one right here, which just has his eyes in a standard position. Then you have the one over here that has one that's a very squished eye, and then one that's opened a little bit more. I like the personality a bit more on that secondary one, but the first one's great as well. So let me show you both of those on the figure. Here's the standard one. So as you can see, the eyes, are pretty much even, and they look good, and the white underneath is very good. It's the top of his head is actually just white, and then the eyes just are holes, so you're looking at the top of his head basically when you see the white of his eyes. Overall, they look very nice, though. I do like that. So let's see the more expressive kind. So I like this pair better just because it is more crazy and just more expressive. But as you can see, this side is open much wider than this side, which is then crunched, closed a bit more. So looking very cool. I think that it just gives him more of a wacky, crazy appearance, and considering his mouth is just so insane, that that crazier, eyepiece I think works better for the figure. He has 4 tentacle pieces, which are quite fun, and these are really nice pieces. Obviously, if they didn't include these, nobody would have really complained, but I'm so glad that they did, because they just look so cool. There's 4 little holes on his back shoulder plates, and you can put them in any order that you want. There are these, you get 2 longer ones like this that are just kind of more extended, and then you have 2 shorter ones. All 4 of these have the same level of articulation. However, 2 are longer and 2 are smaller. And they're all not quite the same piece. Although they have the same design, they're mirrored. So as you can see, like these are the 2 larger pieces. These are the 2 larger pieces, and of course, the one on this side goes out this way, the one on this side goes out that way. So although they are the same design pieces, they aren't actually the same exact pieces. They are mirrored to each other, which looks nice, and I do like that quite a bit. And they all are articulated on hinge swivel joints at the base and at the middle section of the tentacles, so they can be articulated pretty well, and they look quite nice. And they're obviously on the same type of joint that any of his joints are on, so if you want, you can remove the hands and plug these into the hands, and if you want to make a really long one, you can unplug some of these pieces and attach them all together and really come up with unique custom ways of using his tentacles, either on his back or in his hands as weapons. So they're excellent little pieces, and you can do a lot of fun stuff with them, which is great. Another accessory that you do get is the ton piece. The ton piece is on a ball hinge, just like everything else on this figure, and it just plugs right into the back of his mouth, so you can have it there, and obviously it articulates on a ball hinge, so you can really put it wherever you'd like, and you can have fun posing it, which is quite nice. And then if you don't want it, you can just unplug it and then close his mouth shut. So then that looks quite cool as well. Yeah, and you can still have it open and not have the ton in there, and it'll still look very nice. There is a bit of a hole, but it still looks very cool. So I do love the fact that he includes the ton and that it is removable, and and it's posable as well, which is great. Alright, so to go over the actual figure here, as you can see, the proportions are kind of crazy, which is what other than the posability, the proportions are what I love about Revoltech's figures. They just have these really unique, stylized proportions, which just look awesome to me personally. I'm a big fan of the look of them, and they're personally what originally attracted to me to the figures in the first place. But I do know that obviously their proportions, their unique looks could drive some people away, but personally I am definitely quite a fan of it, and that is no exception when it comes to Venom here. I think that his look and his proportions are wonderful, and I do personally really love it. So going over the face closely. So I've talked about the eyepiece, the two that you get there, and the mouth, of course, looks amazing. And obviously, I did explain the ton as well. So as you can see, he can close his mouth. You do have to kind of hold his jaw. There you go, because the bottom area of his face, the thing that the jaw is attached to, is actually just moving freely. It's not attached to the figure. It's just it's held in place because it's around like a peg. So that basically gives it optimal articulation. However, because of that, the mouth, when you move the jaw up just alone, it does kind of just move the bottom of the mouth up with it. So when you let go, it just kind of drops it all down. So you have to hold the neck piece and then move the jaw up to get it to stay in a completely closed position, so as you can see. And then he can, of course, extend his mouth, which looks very cool. And it does, again, because the bottom piece is not on there, it's not like physically attached on a peg or anything. It does swivel quite freely. But as you can see, you can give it like a detached look, which looks so vicious and so cool. It's like exactly what I love about Venom in the comics, to have those crazy proportions, which just look awesome. So I do love that. The body, as you can see, muscles are crazy, have veins popping, and the muscles themselves are just really exaggerated, which I love. And obviously the waist slims down. Really cool comic-y proportions, which I am a big fan of. The feet look awesome too. Love these little claw areas, and the feet are very small, but that fits the proportions, the stylized proportions of this figure. One thing that's a little odd when you're first looking at it is the torso itself. Looks, from the back here looks good, but when you do swivel it down, it can have this odd look to it. As you can see, it can be a bit detached. That is purely just for the articulation. I think that it does look better when it's swiveled up completely. However, it does swivel down to allow you better articulation. It's an interesting way of doing it. I feel like there might have been an easier way to do it than actually have the shoulder plates, swivel on this figure, but it does still work nicely, and it does give you that range of articulation, which is cool. On his arms, he does have these pieces that are kind of flying off, which look very cool. I do definitely like that. And then the veins are even more extreme on the arms here, which is nice. The fingers themselves do look quite cool. They're quite vicious, and as you can see, they all are articulated. The back two here are together on a hinge, and then these two are individually hinged, and then the thumb is hinged and also on a swivel as far as the thumb goes. So that articulation is very nice. The torso, the bottom piece, this is just like the jaw. It's not attached to anything. It just swings freely. So when I say it's not attached, it's not going to fall off, because there is like something that's around it. There's like the skeleton of the figure underneath is holding it in place. However, it's not pegged in anywhere, so it just kind of flies all around. That's just how Revoltech figures are, and it allows them to have maximum articulation, because that stuff doesn't get in the way in the slightest, because you can just push it out of the way, which is what makes it so good. His articulation as a whole, though, is excellent. It's those ratchet ball joints everywhere, basically. He has it at the bottom of his neck, so it allows him to look up about that far. He actually doesn't look up as far as other Revoltech figures, but he still looks up quite far. And then he can look down very far, which is nice. He can look down completely, which is very cool. And then obviously his head swivels and everything, and the jaw opens. Again, swivel at the shoulder blades, basically, then ball hinge shoulders, which work perfectly. He just has a single ball hinge. Most Revoltech figures have a double ball hinge, but because his proportions are so large, he just has a single one. Then he has one on at the elbow there, which is pegged into the top and bottom of the arm, so it swivels at both of those places, and of course is hinged via that ratchet ball joint, so it can hinge in quite far. Same thing with the wrist, you know, same articulation there. The torso, I love Revoltech torsos. They're so amazing. As you can see, huge crunch, so you can really crunch completely far down, which is awesome, and then you can crunch back quite a decent amount as well, so that is very nice. I love torsos from Revoltech. The thighs are ball jointed, and as you can see, they can move up quite far, and they are actually on like a hinge on the side here, which is unique for Revoltech, so it can hinge out to this side too in a perfect amount, which is nice. He has a swivel at the thighs there, which is a bit stiff, but it can swivel a little bit, and then he has just a single hinge knee, which can still hinge quite far, and then he has ball jointed ankles, which can pivot, as well as a hinge at the toe area. So his articulation is pretty much standard Revoltech. Because of some of his proportions, he maybe has slightly less articulation than your average Revoltech figure, but your average Revoltech figure has insane articulation, so even just the slightest bit less is still an amazing amount, and I really don't notice any lack of articulation here. But wow, you know, just absolutely stunning to look at, and freaking fun to pose, especially since he comes with all those extra accessories. You can give his face such cool comic-y looks and expressions, which just looks awesome and is very cool. And obviously with his size here, we have the Revoltech Spider-Man. He's much, I don't think he's much taller than Spider-Man, but he's much bigger as far as the bulk is concerned. And as you can see, you know, Spider-Man they both have that strange proportion and stylized look, so they just look tremendous together. I absolutely love the two of them, and it's so much fun to pose. I really do love Revoltech as a series, and I'm very much excited for their upcoming Wolverine figure. I think looks fantastic. There is a rumor that Agent Venom and Carnage are the next two that they're producing, which would be amazing for me. I want Carnage so much. Carnage is my favorite Marvel character, and I love the artwork of Carnage in that stylized look. So to have a figure that represents that in such an extreme manner would be so incredible. It would be one of the coolest things I've ever seen, I think, assuming that it's done like it is being done in my head as I think of it as a Revoltech figure. So I would really truly love for that to be the case. Agent Venom would be very cool as well. Obviously Spider-Gwen is coming out pretty soon. I don't plan to pick up Spider-Gwen though. I do think I'm going to skip that one. It's just not a character that I really need in the Revoltech format, but really do love this Revoltech Venom. I think it's fantastic, and really the Revoltech series as a whole is just so great that they're incredibly fun together, and they have the best articulation in a series I collect. I don't have another series that has superior articulation to Revoltech. That's just how good they are. So there you go. That's my very review of the amazing Yamaguchi Revoltech Marvel Comics figure number 3, Venom. Let me know what you guys think of this figure and some of the other Revoltech figures that you'd like to see come up soon. Personally, again, I'd love to see Carnage and then Green Goblin. Those would be the coolest Revoltech figures in my opinion. I'd absolutely love them. So hopefully we'll get one of them or both of them soon, or eventually at least. And let me know what you guys think of this figure. Before I go here, I just wanted to show you this pose that I just put together. I actually just finished doing the review and decided to put him in a quick pose while I had him out, and it actually turned out very cool. So I definitely like this kind of Venom kicking Spider-Man midair. So as you can see, the bases are super cool because they actually support these figures, even Venom. But I will say that after time, if you have them posed in something like this for an extended period of time, that the bases will probably, the hinges on the bases will become quite loose. So that is definitely a concern. But overall, you can do some very cool stuff with these bases.